What if the most powerful cancer-fighting tool in the world isn't a drug, a surgery, or a treatment, but something you do every single morning before breakfast? What if the habits you've built before 9 a.m. are either quietly protecting you or silently feeding something you can't yet see or feel? Here's a number that will stop you cold. By the time most people reach their 50s, autopsy studies have shown that roughly half of all men in that age group already have microscopic prostate cancers living inside them. About 40% of women between 40 and 50 carry microscopic cancers in their breast tissue. And by the time virtually all of us reach our 70s, we will have microscopic cancerous clusters forming somewhere in our thyroid. And yet the vast majority of these cancers will never grow. They will never spread. They will never become dangerous. Not because of luck, not because of medication, but because of something your body is doing right now to keep those cells quiet, contained, and starved of the fuel they need to survive. The question isn't whether cancer cells exist in your body. They almost certainly do. The real question, the one that determines your health, your longevity, and your quality of life, is this. Are you feeding those cells every morning, or are you starving them? Because here is what nobody is telling you clearly enough. Cancer cells are not mysterious invaders from the outside. They are opportunists. They are metabolically dependent on a very specific environment, one defined by high glucose, high insulin, chronic inflammation, poor circulation, and disrupted cellular cleanup. When that environment exists in your body, and for most people over 50 who are eating and living the standard modern way, it does cancer cells have everything they need to recruit a blood supply, grow, and spread. But when you disrupt that environment, when you change the biochemical conditions inside your body, particularly in the hours surrounding sleep and the first moments of your morning, you flip a switch. You take away their food supply. You starve them into silence. This is not theory. This is not alternative medicine. This is angiogenesis biology, metabolic science, and circadian physiology, three of the most exciting and evidence-rich fields in modern medicine. And they all converge on one incredibly practical and empowering conclusion. What you do every morning after 50 matters more than almost anything else for your long-term cancer risk. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through 6 science-backed insights that will completely change the way you think about your mornings, your metabolism, and your body's own built-in cancer defense systems. We're going to talk about the one biological process that cleans out damaged cells while you sleep, the role insulin plays as a literal cancer growth signal, the specific morning foods and drinks that cut off blood supply to tumors, and the simple 3-step morning protocol that some of the world's leading cancer researchers have begun quietly using themselves. Stay with me through the whole video because insight number 5 contains what I believe is one of the most overlooked and most actionable cancer prevention strategies available to anyone, regardless of age or budget. Here are the 6 key insights we're going to cover today. 1. The extraordinary science of angiogenesis and how your body already knows how to starve cancer. 2. The overnight fast, why what you don't eat may protect you more than what you do. 3. The morning insulin trap, and why breaking your fast the wrong way feeds cancer cells directly. 4. The anti-angiogenic morning foods that cut off cancer's blood supply. 5. Autophagy, your body's overnight cleanup crew, and how to activate it every single morning. And 6, morning movement, sunlight, and cortisol. How the first 30 minutes of your day are shaping your cancer risk in ways you've never considered. Let's begin. Here's what's really going on inside your body, and I want you to understand this clearly, because once you do, everything else will make perfect sense. Your body has a remarkable defense system. It's called angiogenesis, the process by which your body grows and maintains blood vessels. In normal circumstances, this is one of the most life-sustaining processes imaginable. Angiogenesis is how wounds heal. It's how your heart gets oxygen. It's how a developing baby is nourished inside the womb. A little angiogenesis is not just good, it's essential for life. But here is where it gets important. Cancerous tumors, even microscopic ones, cannot survive without their own blood supply. They cannot grow, they cannot spread, and they cannot become dangerous unless they are able to recruit new blood vessels to feed them. This process of tumor-driven blood vessel growth is called pathological angiogenesis, and your body, under healthy conditions, is designed to suppress it. Think of it like this. Imagine a tiny weed in a garden. As long as you cut off its water supply, it stays small, dormant, harmless. The moment it finds a route to water, a crack in a pipe, an underground stream, it explodes in size and starts to crowd out everything around it. Cancer works the same way. The microscopic clusters of abnormal cells most of us are carrying right now are dormant, not because they don't want to grow, but because they haven't been able to tap into a blood supply. The angiogenesis defense system is doing its job. Your mission every single morning is to support that system and not undermine it. What the research shows is that over 100 naturally occurring compounds in food have been documented to have anti-angiogenic properties, meaning they help suppress the abnormal blood vessel growth that feeds tumors. Dr. William Lee, one of the world's leading angiogenesis researchers and a Harvard-trained physician, has spent decades studying this exact mechanism. His landmark TED Talk on the subject has drawn over 11 million views, and his work at the Angiogenesis Foundation has contributed to more than 30 new medical treatments impacting over 70 diseases. The key message is this: your food choices, your fasting window, and your morning habits are directly influencing whether your body's angiogenesis defense is functioning at full power or whether it's being suppressed by chronic inflammation, high insulin, and metabolic dysfunction. And after the age of 50, this distinction is not academic. It is everything. Before we dive deeper, I want to connect with our community. If you're new here, welcome to BioBytes YouTube channel, where we break down health science into actionable strategies you can use starting today. We're building an amazing global community of health-conscious individuals, and we'd love for you to join us. Hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon so you never miss our evidence-based content. And I'm genuinely curious, where in the world are you watching this from? Drop your country or city in the comments. We have viewers spanning 6 continents, and seeing our international community grow is incredibly inspiring. Your engagement keeps us motivated to research and create content that truly serves you. Now let's talk about the overnight fast, because this might be the most underestimated cancer prevention tool available to any of us, and it costs absolutely nothing. Here's what most people don't understand. When you eat anything, you trigger a release of insulin. Insulin is a hormone produced by your pancreas, and its primary job is to help your cells absorb glucose from your bloodstream. That is an essential function, but here's the part that changes everything. Insulin is also a growth factor. It tells cells to grow. It promotes cellular proliferation. And in a body where cancer cells are already present, which remember is almost certainly the case for most people over 50, elevated insulin is essentially sending those cells a signal that says, now is the time to grow. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine cancer cells as seeds sitting in dry soil. They can survive, but they can't really take root. Now imagine insulin as rain. A little rain is fine. It's needed for everything else in the garden too. But chronic rain insulin that is constantly elevated because you're eating frequently, eating sugar, eating refined carbohydrates, eating late at night, turns that soil into the perfect growing conditions for the weeds to take over. What the research shows is clear and compelling. A 2024 study published in the journal Biomolecules found that fasting, and specifically time-restricted eating, alters circulating levels of glucose, insulin, glucagon, and insulin-like growth factor, all of which can exert significant anti-cancer effects. Separate research published in 2025 in the International Journal of Molecular Sciences confirmed that intermittent fasting has shown real potential for reducing cancer risk by sensitizing tumor cells to the body's own defenses and reducing the metabolic environment in which cancers thrive. Circadian code research shows that spending 12 to 14 hours each day in a fasting state, which for most people simply means finishing dinner by 7 or 8 miles p.m., and not eating again until 7 or 9 a.m. The next morning activates powerful cellular cleanup mechanisms and keeps insulin levels low during a critical window of overnight cellular repair. So here's your first morning protocol. Don't break your fast too early. Honor the overnight window. If you finished eating at 7 p.m. last night, consider waiting until at least 9 or 10 a.m. before your first meal. That 14-hour fasting window isn't starvation. It's medicine. It keeps your insulin suppressed, it keeps glucose low, and it sends a very different message to any abnormal cells that might be lurking in your tissue. That message is simple. There is no feast here. Move on. Now let's talk about the morning insulin trap, because even people who have heard about fasting often make a mistake right after they break it that undermines everything they've done overnight. Here's what's really going on. After a 12 to 14-hour fast, your body is in a state of relative metabolic clarity. Insulin is low. Blood glucose is stable. Autophagy, the cellular self-cleaning process we'll discuss in depth shortly, has been running through the night, Your angiogenesis defense system is operating well. You are physiologically speaking in the best possible internal environment for cancer prevention. And then the wrong breakfast hits. A bowl of instant oatmeal with dried fruit, a glass of orange juice, a muffin grabbed on the way out the door, a coffee with flavored syrup, even a so-called healthy smoothie packed with fruit and honey. In the span of 15 to 20 minutes, you have flooded your bloodstream with sugar, triggered a massive insulin spike, sent inflammation markers climbing, and completely reversed the protective metabolic state you just spent 12 hours building. Let me be direct about this. Cancer cells are fundamentally sugar dependent. This is called the Warburg effect, named after Nobel Prize-winning scientist Otto Warburg, who discovered nearly a century ago that cancer cells have a distinct metabolic signature. They preferentially consume glucose at a dramatically higher rate than normal cells. This is in fact the basis of the PET scan used in modern cancer diagnosis. Radioactive glucose is injected, and cancer cells literally light up because they consume it so voraciously. So, when you spike your glucose and insulin first thing in the morning, you are unintentionally providing the most direct fuel source available to any cancer cells in your body. The solution is straightforward. When you do break your fast, break it with protein and healthy fats first. Eggs, avocado, a handful of walnuts, a small portion of smoked salmon, Greek yogurt without added sugar. These foods trigger a minimal insulin response. They stabilize blood glucose. They continue the anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer metabolic environment rather than destroying it. If you enjoy fruit, choose low glycemic options. Berries are ideal, and always pair them with protein or fat to blunt the glucose response. What you eat first thing in the morning sets your metabolic tone for the entire day. Make it count. Now let's get into the specific foods, because this is where the science gets both precise and deeply practical. The anti-angiogenic foods Dr. William Li and his colleagues have studied in greatest depth are not exotic or expensive. Many of them are already in your kitchen. The key is understanding why they work and making them a consistent part of your morning routine. Let's start with green tea, rich in a compound called EGCG, epigallocatechin gallate. Green tea is one of the most well-researched anti-angiogenic beverages on the planet. EGCG has been shown in numerous laboratory and clinical studies to inhibit the growth of new blood vessels and tumors, directly reducing a cancer's ability to recruit the supply lines it needs to expand. A morning cup of green tea, ideally consumed during the fasting window or as the first thing you drink, delivers this compound directly into your system before you've given cancer cells anything to eat. Laboratory studies have shown that green tea slows or prevents cancer development in colon, liver, breast, and prostate cells. Next, tomatoes. Specifically cooked tomatoes. Tomatoes are one of the richest sources of lycopene, a carotenoid antioxidant with potent anti-angiogenic activity. In the health professionals' follow-up study of over 51,000 men, those with the highest lycopene consumption showed a meaningful reduction in prostate cancer risk compared to those consuming the least. And here's something fascinating that most people don't know. Cooking tomatoes actually increases the bioavailability of lycopene dramatically. Sautéing a tomato for just 2 minutes can increase your body's absorption of lycopene by up to 50%. Adding a drizzle of olive oil increases it further because lycopene is fat-soluble. 2 eggs scrambled with cherry tomatoes and olive oil is not just a delicious breakfast. It is a scientifically defensible anti-cancer meal. Then there's the synergy of food combinations. Research has shown that combining certain anti-angiogenic foods amplifies their effect beyond what either achieves alone. For example, combining Japanese sencha and Chinese jasmine tea was found to produce a more potent anti-angiogenic effect than either tea on its own. This principle of food synergy suggests that a morning routine built around layering anti-angiogenic compounds, green tea, a tomato-based egg dish, a handful of berries, and a side of walnuts is far more powerful than any one food eaten in isolation. Finally, and this one surprises people, coffee. Dr. William Li himself has spoken about the role of coffee's polyphenols, particularly chlorogenic acid, which not only acts as an antioxidant, but also improves insulin sensitivity and helps the body burn excess fat. When consumed black or with a small amount of unsweetened milk, without sugar, without flavored syrup, coffee in the morning is a metabolically supportive choice that contributes to, rather than undermines, your anti-cancer environment. Now let's talk about what I believe is the most underappreciated biological process in the entire conversation about cancer prevention after 50. It's called autophagy, and understanding it may change your entire relationship with the hours between dinner and breakfast. Here is what's really going on inside your body during the overnight fast. Around 12 hours after your last meal, your body begins to activate a process called autophagy, from the Greek meaning self-eating. This is your body's cellular cleanup system. Think of it like a municipal waste management crew that comes out at night when the streets are quiet to collect and process the biological garbage that accumulates inside every cell during the day. Damaged proteins, damaged, dysfunctional mitochondria, precancerous cellular components, all of it gets tagged, packaged, and either recycled into building blocks or eliminated entirely. This process was so important that the researcher who discovered its mechanisms, Yoshinori Ohsumi, was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 2016. Autophagy is not fringe science. It is foundational biology, and here is why it matters profoundly for cancer prevention. One of the primary functions of autophagy is to identify and destroy cells that have accumulated the kind of DNA damage that can lead to malignancy. It is quite literally a cancer surveillance system built into every cell in your body. When autophagy is running efficiently during the overnight fast, during morning movement in the metabolic state created by low insulin, it acts as a first line of defense against the progression of those microscopic cancer clusters we discussed at the beginning. But when does autophagy shut down? It shut the moment you eat, and specifically the moment insulin rises. A 2024 study published in medRxiv showed that time-restricted eating in cancer patients induced measurable changes in autophagy processes over both 3 and 6-month periods, with patients reporting improvements in sleep, energy, and overall well-being alongside the biological changes. So, your morning protocol becomes clear. Extend the overnight fast long enough for autophagy to do its most important work. Aim for that 13 to 14-hour window consistently. When you do eat, start with protein and fat to minimize the insulin spike and extend, even partially, the autophagy supportive environment. And understand that every morning you honor that window, you are not just skipping breakfast. You are activating a cancer surveillance system that your body has evolved over millions of years to protect you. Before we move on, I want to take a moment to connect with our BioBytes community. If you've been getting value from this channel, please take 5 seconds right now and hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber helps us reach more people who are searching for real, evidence-based health information. And in the comments below, I want to hear from what time do you typically eat your first meal of the day? Are you already doing time-restricted eating? Share your experience because this community learns from each other, and your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to take that first step. Now, let's bring it all together with the final pillar, and this is about the first 30 minutes after you wake up, not what you eat, what you do. Here is what most people get wrong about the morning. They wake up, reach for their phone, check notifications, scroll social media, maybe watch the news, brew a coffee, and sit. The body, meanwhile, is trying to complete its overnight restoration. Cortisol, your primary morning hormone, is rising naturally as it should to energize you and mobilize stored fuel for the day. But when that cortisol spike is immediately met with the stress of notifications, negative news, and sedentary behavior, it dysregulates. Cortisol stays elevated longer than it should. Chronic cortisol elevation suppresses immune function, promotes inflammation, and contributes to the exact internal environment, high glucose, impaired cellular cleanup, reduced immune surveillance in which cancer cells thrive. The solution is morning movement, not an intense workout, not a punishing run. Simply movement that uses your body, lowers cortisol appropriately, and begins to push glucose into your muscles rather than leaving it circulating in your bloodstream. A 20 to 30-minute walk outdoors does several things simultaneously. It uses muscle tissue to absorb glucose, lowering the post-waking blood sugar rise that occurs in many people over 50. It exposes your eyes and skin to natural morning light, which helps set your circadian rhythm, the internal clock that regulates everything from sleep to hormone production to immune function to DNA repair. Research published in 2025 shows that circadian rhythm disruption is directly implicated in carcinogenesis through impaired cell cycle checkpoints, altered DNA repair, and dysregulated metabolism. Aligning your morning behavior with natural light and movement helps restore those rhythms. Add to this the practice of sunlight exposure first thing in the morning. Morning sunlight, specifically in the first hour after waking, signals the suprachiasmatic nucleus in your brain to set the master biological clock. This clock governs when your body produces melatonin at night, which is itself a powerful antioxidant and anti-cancer compound. When you spend your mornings indoors under artificial light scrolling a glowing screen, you blunt the signal. You disrupt the rhythm, and you reduce your nighttime melatonin production, one of your most underappreciated overnight cancer defenses. The morning protocol that synthesizes all of this is remarkably simple. Wake up, don't eat yet, drink a large glass of water, step outside or at minimum, open a window and get 5 to 10 minutes of natural light into your eyes. Take a 20 to 30 minute walk. When you return, have a cup of black coffee or green tea. Then, around the 13 to 14 hour mark after your last meal, break your fast with protein and healthy fats. This sequence, fasting, hydration, movement, light, and a metabolically appropriate first meal is not a trend. It is alignment with the deepest biology of your body, and it is one of the most powerful zero-cost cancer prevention protocols available to any adult over 50. Let me bring everything together for you now, because I want you to leave this video not just informed, but genuinely equipped to change something starting tomorrow morning. Here is what we've covered today. Your body already has a sophisticated cancer defense system. Angiogenesis biology tells us that microscopic cancer clusters, which most of us over 50 likely carry, are only dangerous if they can recruit a blood supply. The right morning habits suppress that blood supply. The overnight fast of 12 to 14 hours keeps insulin low, activates autophagy, and cuts off the primary fuel that cancer cells depend on, glucose. Breaking your fast with protein and fat, rather than sugar and refined carbohydrates, ensures you don't immediately hand cancer cells the growth signal they've been waiting for. Anti-angiogenic morning foods, green tea, cooked tomatoes, berries, walnuts, olive oil actively suppress the blood vessel growth that feeds tumors. They work best in combination, not in isolation, because of the powerful principle of food synergy. Autophagy, your body's overnight cellular cleanup crew, is one of the most important cancer surveillance mechanisms available to you. It runs during the fast, shuts down when you eat, and deserves to be honored and extended every single morning. And morning movement, natural light, and cortisol regulation in the first 30 minutes after waking shape your circadian rhythm, your immune function, your glucose metabolism, and ultimately your long-term cancer risk in ways that science is only beginning to fully appreciate. None of this requires a prescription. None of it requires a supplement routine worth hundreds of dollars. It requires understanding and then commitment to the small, consistent daily actions that compound over months and years into a profoundly different biological reality. Here's the challenge I want to leave you with. Not all 6 changes at once, just one. Tomorrow morning, do one thing differently. Maybe it's extending your overnight fast by 1 hour. Maybe it's replacing the orange juice with green tea. Maybe it's taking a 20-minute walk before your first meal instead of after. Maybe it's swapping your sugary breakfast cereal for 2 eggs scrambled with tomatoes and olive oil. Pick one. Track how you feel. Notice your energy, your hunger, your mental clarity, because the body speaks, and when you start feeding it differently, it responds. Usually faster than you'd expect. The research is clear. The biology is real, and the power to shape your cancer risk, not eliminate it entirely, not guarantee immunity, but meaningfully shift the internal environment that determines whether those microscopic cells stay dormant or begin to grow. That power is in your hands. It starts tomorrow morning. It starts with what you do before breakfast. If this video added value to your understanding of your body and your health, I'd be genuinely grateful if you take a second to like it and share it with someone who might need to hear it. And subscribe to join our growing community of people who are taking their health seriously, not with fear, but with knowledge, intention, and the quiet confidence that comes from understanding your own biology. We'll see you in the next one.